Hello and a very good evening. You're watching the news at 6 on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are the headlines. Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker disqualifies 18 rebel MLAs supporting sacked AIADMK leader TTV Dinakaran. Decision comes 2 days before the Madras High Court's deadline for floor test by Chief Minister E. Palaniswamy government. BJP National President Amit Shah appears as a witness in the Naroda riot case of 2002, backs the alibi of accused former Gujarat Minister Maya Kudnani. Nation bids adieu to Marshal of Indian Air Force Arjan Singh with a gun salute and a fly past. Hero of the 1965 war against Pakistan cremated in New Delhi. And US tells North Korea that it will be destroyed if it refuses to end its nuclear and ballistic missile drive. Warning comes ahead of US President Donald Trump's address to the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday. The Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker P. Dhanapal today disqualified 18 dissident MLAs loyal to sacked AIADMK Deputy General Secretary TTV Dinakaran. The dissident MLAs were disqualified under the anti-defection rules. The Dinakaran camp called the move a murder of democracy.
Tamil Nadu Assembly Speaker P. Dhanapal on Monday disqualified 18 rebel MLAs who are supporting sacked AIADMK leader TTV Dinakaran. These MLAs were disqualified on the grounds that they had switched their party. The Speaker's decision comes 2 days before the Madras High Court's deadline for a floor test by the Chief Minister E. Palaniswamy government. The 18 MLAs had revolted last month against the Palaniswamy government, saying they had lost confidence in the Chief Minister.
Whatever the things we face it, that is a different issue. Only the thing is, suppose if one doing mischief means, so the action should be taken. What the provisions made in the Constitution, according to the Constitution, that being provided in the article, within that only Speaker acted it. No intention.
Dubbing the move as a murder of democracy, the Dinakaran camp challenged the Speaker's decision. The opposition DMK also criticized the Speaker for disqualifying the MLAs.
We have not acted against our party or not voted against our party inside the floor. The whip cannot control me for my every movement, but they are doing it wantonly. They are killing us. That's all. They are trying to kill the democracy of this country. Let them try and do it. Court is there.
It is undemocratic. Speaker attitude is undemocratic one. It is political. That's all.
The suspension of the rebels effectively reduces the strength of the assembly, which means that if the trust vote is held, the Palaniswamy government needs only 110 MLAs to prove its majority. Earlier this month, both Shashikala and Dinakaran were removed as party chief and deputy, respectively, at an AIADMK General Council meet. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, BJP President Amit Shah told a special SIT court on Monday that former Gujarat Minister Maya Kudnani was present in the assembly on the morning of the Naroda riot on February 28, 2002. He appeared before the Ahmedabad court as a defense witness for Kudnani, who has been charged with murder and rioting in the case. The BJP President also told the court that he met Kudnani at the Sola Civil Hospital that morning. The court had last Tuesday summoned Shah in response to an application filed by Kudnani. The court had allowed Kudnani's plea to summon Shah and some others as witnesses in her defense in April this year. Kudnani has already been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment in connection with a separate case of rioting. Kudnani was a state minister for women and child development in the then BJP government in Gujarat, led by Narendra Modi.
अमित भाई ने आज अपनी गवाही में बताया कि सुबह जब वो गृह के अंदर गए थे वहां पर मायाबेन उपस्थित थे और उसके बाद वो 9:30 पौने 10 बजे के बाद सोला हॉस्पिटल पहुंचे। वहां पर मायाबेन और डॉक्टर जयदीप भाई भी उपस्थित थे और उस दौरान बाद में वहां धक्का मुक्की होने के बाद उनको पुलिस ने कॉर्डन करके अपनी जीप में बिठा दिया था और वो वहां से चले गए थे।
प्रोसिक्यूशन की तरफ से उनकी क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन की। उस क्रॉस एग्जामिनेशन में उन्होंने कहा कि उन्होंने ग्रहण शुरू होने के टाइम पे देखा था, और दूसरी बार जब वो वहाँ से वापस निकल रहे थे, जो उन्होंने टाइम बताया 11 से 11:30 के आसपास का, उस समय पे ही मायाबेन को देखा। और इस बीच में मायाबेन कहाँ थी ये अमित शाह को नहीं मालूम है। तो आज अमित शाह की इस जुबानी से ये साबित हो रहा है कि जो हमारे पीड़ित पिछले 15 साल से ये कह रहे हैं कि मायाबेन दंगों के समय नरोड़ा गांव में थी, उस बात को पुष्टि मिलती है।
The government filed an affidavit in the Supreme Court on Monday on the issue of deportation of Rohingya Muslims from India, maintaining its stand that the presence of Rohingyas in the country posed threats to national security. The centre cited intelligence inputs that suggested the links of some Rohingya immigrants with Pakistan-based terror groups.
Deporting Rohingya Muslims is an executive policy decision, and the Supreme Court should desist from interfering in the matter. The centre said this in an affidavit filed in the Apex Court on Monday, emphasizing that the refugees from Myanmar are a very serious and potential threat to national security. The government document said many of the Rohingyas have links with the ISI, the Islamic State terror group, and other extremist groups found to have serious national security ramifications.
In that affidavit, they have mainly said that this is a purely executive matter to be decided by the government, and that the court has no business to interfere in such matters of what they call illegal immigrants or illegal migrants, and therefore they say that the court should not entertain this petition.
The written submission also states that the fundamental right to reside and settle in any part of the country is available to citizens only, and illegal refugees cannot invoke the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court to enforce the right. The centre says since India is not a signatory to the Convention relating to the status of refugees 1951, the obligations concerned to non-refoulement is not applicable. Taking note of the centre's reply, the court has adjourned the hearing in the matter to the 3rd of October.
अब जो भी फैसला होना है वो कोर्ट के द्वारा फैसला होना है। मैं समझता हूं कि हम सबको कोर्ट के फैसले की प्रतीक्षा करनी चाहिए।
Minister of State for Home Kiran Rijiju also appealed to activists and human rights groups to not malign India's image.
समिति आयोग जो भी है, इन लोग से मैं रिक्वेस्ट करना चाहता हूं कि आप खामखा भारत को और भारत सरकार के खिलाफ ऐसे गलत बातें ना फैलाएं, क्योंकि ये भारत का एक सॉवरेन हमारा ड्यूटी है, हमारा एक दायित्व है जो भारत का सुरक्षा को देखते हुए, भारत एक राष्ट्र है, इस राष्ट्र का सुरक्षा, इस राष्ट्र का भविष्य को देखते हुए कार्रवाई उठाएंगे।
Meanwhile, in Bangladesh, Rohingya refugees are facing a humanitarian disaster due to lack of food, shelter and water. Heavy rains in the last 2 days have made matters worse for the thousands of refugees living in makeshift camps.
Well, you know, there's now an estimated 409,000 people who've come across in the last 3 weeks. It's essential that we move ahead as quickly as we possibly can with the government's plan to allocate an area between Balokali and Kudapalang makeshift settlements, existing settlements. And I think all the agencies, all the international agencies, need to move very, very quickly to get these people out of a very vulnerable situation.
Bangladesh authorities have also restricted the Rohingya refugees from leaving the border areas, citing security issues. More than 4 lakh Muslim Rohingyas have crossed over to Bangladesh from Myanmar following the latest flare-up in violence on the 25th of August. With inputs from Ravindra Shoran, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, the stock market surged to new highs on Monday. The National Stock Exchange benchmark index Nifty hit a record high of 10,171, surpassing its August high of 10,137 before closing at 10,153.1. The Sensex closed at 32,423, up 151 points or 0.47%. During the day, it also touched a high of 32,508.06, its highest closing since August 2nd. The rally in stock markets has been due to gains in banking, capital goods and auto stocks after unabated buying by domestic institutional investors. Revival of buying by FPIs who had been major sellers, for a long spell on the Indian bourses too accelerated the buying pace to some extent. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley said on Monday that people switched from cash to digital payments out of compulsion rather than convenience after demonetization. He also exuded confidence that digital payment will pick up momentum with more advanced technology coming to the market.
Finance Minister Arun Jaitley asserted on Monday that increase in volume of digital transactions, widening of tax base and squeezed circulation of high-denomination currency notes were the real measures of success of demonetization. He also said that people embraced digitization for payments only after compulsion, resulting from demonetization, created a habit for many.
In terms of sheer volumes of the cash that the Reserve Bank prints, are we able to squeeze over a period of time? As we stand today already, the high denominational currency has squeezed.
The Finance Minister also said that there will be an uptick in digitization in the next few months as the government has unleashed a slew of measures.
Starting from the 8th of November, with the announcement of demonetization, the process of remonetization was on, and the need to replace cash transactions with digital transactions, the debate was at the peak.
The Finance Minister also launched Google's mobile wallet and payments app, Days, specifically designed for India. The app is free of charge and is now available for download on both Android and iOS. Kriti Mishra, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Marshal of the Indian Air Force Amar Singh was laid to rest in New Delhi today. He was accorded a full state funeral with several leaders paying tributes to him. President Ramnath Kovind, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu and Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the nation in paying tributes to Air Marshal Amar Singh.
A 17-gun salute, flypast of Sukhoi 30 fighters and the national flag being flown at half-mast at all government buildings. The funeral of Amar Singh, Marshal of the Indian Air Force and legendary fighter pilot, took place on Monday in New Delhi with full state honours. Marshal Amar Singh's body, wrapped in the national flag, was taken from his home to the Delhi cantonment in a gun carriage decorated with flowers. A journey of 8 kilometers, complete with an Air Force band and a tri-services contingent at the funeral site. All three service chiefs paid their respects to Marshal Amar Singh. Defence Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, senior BJP leader L.K. Advani and former Army Chief General Dalbir Singh also paid floral tributes.
He's a great man but never acted great. That was the beauty of him. He was very humble. He, at times, I used to always listen to what he said because he had a lot of wisdom. He always treated the world fairly. I think he was destined for greatness because he had it from an early age but didn't really show it. So he was a philanthropist. He gave away his own land at a time and nobody did that sort of thing. So I'm extremely proud of him and his career, and he was also fairly fearless and courageous.
The way the Air Force took over, it just showed how well loved, admired and respected he always was, he is. So, I mean, one looks back at a life so well lived, and I say yes, it is a loss. I would have really loved to have seen Bhaji Uncle reach the age of 100, but he was very well loved and respected in his lifetime.
The entire nation, including President Ramnath Kovind and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, mourned the passing away of a legend. The Prime Minister said that Arjun Singh's determined focus on capacity building added great strength to our defence capabilities. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee also condoled the demise of Arjun Singh in a tweet. BJP President Amit Shah paid respects to Arjun Singh in a post on Twitter. He expressed his deepest condolences to Arjun Singh's family and friends.
He was one of the greatest sons of India as far as the armed forces is concerned. 64, 65, he did something that the world was totally surprised and stunned. In each and every job that was entrusted to him, he excelled. He stood out as a leader, as a gentleman, as an officer, and a great motivator. He was a doer, a man of few words. His contribution to the Indian nation, even during insurgency in Punjab, was something which is commendable.
He was an all-rounder. He was a man, kind-hearted man. He had a philanthropic idea. He sold his personal asset to create a trust to look after the men of the Air Force. That's his other softness side as a human being.
The 98-year-old military legend Arjun Singh, also known as the hero of the 1965 India-Pakistan War, was the only Air Force officer to be promoted to 5-star rank. He was conferred the rank of the Marshal of the Indian Air Force in the year 2002. Arjun Singh died of a cardiac arrest on Saturday.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, the Haryana government on Monday took administrative control of the Ryan International School as it reopened 10 days after a 7-year-old student was found dead with his throat slit inside the school. The conductor of a school bus has been arrested for the murder and the probe has been handed over to the Central Bureau of Investigation. Attendance was low on the first day after the school reopened, with only 3 to 4 students present in each class. Deputy Commissioner Vinay Pratap Singh has taken charge as administrator of the school for 3 months. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court has directed members of the District Bar Association of Gurgaon not to obstruct the proceedings going on before the special judge. The Apex Court was informed by the bar body that they have withdrawn their earlier resolution in which they had said that no lawyer will represent any of the accused in the case. Well, let's now get you a roundup of some other news from across the country and nationwide. On the 3rd anniversary of the Clean India campaign, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has written to opinion makers to seek their support for Swachhata Hi Seva. In personalized letters, he invited them to lend support to the movement and dedicate time for the cause of a Swachh Bharat. The Swachh Bharat Abhiyan aims to make India a cleaner place by emphasizing sanitation and health while changing age-old attitudes towards hygiene. The Appointments Committee of the Cabinet named Senior IPS Officer YC Modi to head the National Investigation Agency. Modi, a 1984 batch IPS officer of the Assam Meghalaya cadre, was part of the Supreme Court appointed special investigation team that probed the 2002 Gujarat riot cases. Modi will hold the post till his superannuation on 31st May 2021. He will take over from Sharad Kumar after the latter completes his tenure on 30th of October. Ten persons drowned when 4 boats capsized in Sabon River during a severe storm in Assam's Golpara district. About 50 people in 4 small boats were returning home after witnessing a local boat race when their boats capsized during the storm. According to sources, bodies of the 10 persons, including 2 women and 6 minors, were recovered. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath today took oath as a member of the State Legislative Council. 2 Deputy Chief Ministers Keshav Prasad Maurya and Dinesh Sharma were also administered oath at a function at the Tilak Hall in Lucknow. All of them had to get elected to either the Assembly or the Legislative Council before September 19th in order to continue as ministers. The Haryana police today released a list of 43 people wanted for violence after the conviction of Dera Sacha Sauda chief Gurmeet Singh. Gurmeet Singh's adopted daughter Hanipreet and Dera's spokesperson Aditya Insan topped the list. Hanipreet has been missing since the day the Dera chief was sent to the Rohtak jail. Shifting focus to some international news now, the 72nd United Nations General Assembly starts in New York today. US President Donald Trump will chair a high-level meeting on UN reforms. India, among the 120 countries who have supported the reform efforts, will participate in the meeting. On Tuesday, Trump will address the 193-member body for the first time, where he is likely to flag several issues, including the North Korean threat, terrorism and refugee crisis. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj will address the General Assembly on the 23rd of September.
All eyes on Donald Trump as the 193-member United Nations convenes this week for the annual General Assembly speeches. A critic of several what the world considers as the most significant achievements at the United Nations, it will be interesting to see what issues will US President flag as he addresses the body for the first time on Tuesday. Considering his skepticism about the positions advocated the United Nations, Trump is likely to raise his objections to the Paris Climate Accord, the Iran nuclear agreement and protecting the rights of refugees and migrants.
If the United States cuts back its voluntary commitments to the refugees, are you able to perform your current tasks?
I would say no. US aid is vital to what we do to support refugees around the world and to find solutions to their situations.
In the backdrop of North Korea's continuous missile program, Trump is also likely to seek support for tough measures against the Kim regime. While India has said that it would raise issues of militancy, climate change and Rohingya refugee crisis at the UNGA session. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj arrived in New York and is expected to address the Assembly on 23rd of September. India is also expected to press for a ban on Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. Last year, China had blocked India's efforts for a ban on the terror chief at the United Nations, but at the BRICS summit recently had relaxed its stance and designated Jaish as a terrorist organization.
There was an attack of a terrorist attack in London, also in other parts of the world, in Iraq. So counterterrorism is a major plank of our focus this year at the UN. It is also a major plank of focus of other countries, including the United States.
Reforms at the UN is also a key issue that will take center stage. India, along with 119 other nations like Germany, Japan and Brazil, say that the world is very different from what it was in 1945 and the Security Council should reflect that. India has also been pushing for a permanent seat in the Council. US has also advocated changes in the UN, looking to trim its peacekeeping budget. India, one of the top countries contributing to the peacekeeping mission of the UN, has welcomed the US's decision to bring reforms to the practices of the peacekeeping missions of the world body. Swaraj will attend a high-level meeting on UN reforms hosted by Donald Trump today.
We feel that reform needs to be much more broad-based. You cannot have reform only of the Secretariat. Reform cannot sidestep issues relating to governance of UN bodies. So for us, reform is broad-based, it is all-encompassing.
In addition to Sushma Swaraj's address to the General Assembly, she is likely to hold 15 to 20 bilateral meetings with the world leaders and attend several multilateral meetings during her week-long stay in New York. Today, she will hold a bilateral meeting with foreign ministers of US and Japan to give momentum to the cooperation amid China flexing its muscles in the South China Sea. Sushma Swaraj will also hold a series of separate meetings today, including that with foreign ministers of the Netherlands, Latvia and Bolivia, and also with the Bhutanese Prime Minister. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Some more international news now. Hours after warning North Korea that it will be destroyed if it refuses to end its reckless nuclear and ballistic missile drive, the US flew a pair of B-1B bombers and 4 F-35 fighter jets over the Korean peninsula in a show of force against North Korea. In bombing drills with South Korea, the US bombers flew from Guam and fighters flew from Japan. Well, that's it on this newscast, but do stay tuned for the big picture on the other side of this short break.